The ship was small compared to the massive stations floating around. Nexus Prime. Elena Vasquez watched through the window as her vessel moved past warships that were larger than cities. Each one belonged to a different species. Each one could destroy Earth without much effort. She was not afraid. She had trained for this moment her entire life. Elena was 42 years old. She had brown skin, dark hair with some gray in it, and calm brown eyes that had seen many difficult things. She had been a diplomat on Earth for 20 years. She had ended wars between nations. She had brought peace to places that had known only blood. But this was different. This was humanity's first contact with the Galactic Council. 30 years ago, humans had discovered how to travel faster than light. They had found other species among the stars. Most of those species had ignored humanity. Some had attacked. Humans had survived, but barely. They had learned that the galaxy was ruled by something called the Galactic Council of 12. These were the oldest and most powerful species in this part of the universe. They had been in control for 60,000 years, though no young species had ever been invited to speak before the council. But humanity had sent messages for decades, asking for a chance. Finally, the council had agreed to listen. Elena was chosen because she believed in peace more than anyone else. Her sister Maria had wanted her to carry weapons. Her friends had told her the galaxy was cruel. But Elena believed that understanding could exist between any two peoples. She believed that words were stronger than guns. The shuttle landed in a bay made of crystal and light. The walls glowed with colors that had no names in human languages. Strange beings moved around her, some floating, some walking on many legs, some made of what looked like living stone. They all looked at her with something between curiosity and disgust. A creature that looked like a tall insect approached her. It was a guide sent by the council. "Human," it said in a clicking voice. "You will follow. You will not speak unless asked. You will not touch anything. If you break these rules, you will die." Elena nodded politely. "I understand. Thank you for receiving me." The guide made a sound that might have been laughter. "We receive you because it amuses the High Arbiter. Nothing more." They walked through halls that seemed to go on forever. Elena saw artwork on the walls that showed the history of galactic civilization. She saw images of wars, of planets burning, of species being wiped out. This was how the council had built its power, through fear and death. But she also saw moments of peace, trade between worlds, cities built together by different species. There was good here too. She held on to that thought. The council chamber was the largest room Elena had ever seen. It was round, with 12 thrones arranged in a circle. Each throne was built for a different kind of body. Some were made of ice. Some were pools of liquid. Some floated in the air. On each throne sat a being of incredible age and power. Elena walked to the center of the room. She felt very small. Above her, the ceiling showed the stars themselves, as if she stood at the center of the galaxy. "You are the human," said a deep voice. Elena looked up at the largest throne. Sitting there was a creature that looked like a dragon from old Earth stories. He was covered in dark green scales. His eyes burned like yellow fire. His claws were as long as swords. This was High Arbiter Kethrol of the Zoarvathi Imperium, the leader of the council. "I am Ambassador Elena Vasquez," she said, keeping her voice steady. "I come on behalf of all humanity. We thank you for this audience." Kethrol leaned forward. "We did not invite you because we care about your thanks. We invited you because we were curious. Your species discovered faster than light travel very quickly. Too quickly. We wondered if you had stolen it." "We developed it ourselves," Elena said. "Human scientists worked for generations to unlock the secrets of space. We are proud of what we have achieved." "Proud," said another council member, a being made entirely of floating crystals. Such a small species, and already proud. How amusing. Elena did not let the insult touch her. She had prepared for this. "I have come to offer friendship," she said. "Humanity does not want war. We do not want to conquer. We want to trade, to learn, and to share. We have brought gifts for the Council." She activated a small device on her wrist. Holographic images appeared in the air around her. They showed human art from across the ages. Paintings, sculptures, music, literature. They showed human cities, full of life and color. They showed children laughing, people dancing, families caring for each other. "This is what humanity offers," Elena said. "We are young, yes, we are small, but we have things that cannot be measured in warships or conquered planets. We have culture. We have hope. We have the ability to see beauty in the universe." She looked at each council member in turn. "We ask only for a chance. Let us join the galactic community. Let us show you that younger species have value. Perhaps we can even help. We have no old enemies among the stars. We could serve as neutral voices in disputes." For a long moment, no one spoke. Then Kethril began to laugh. It was a horrible sound, deep and cruel. The other council members joined in. The whole chamber filled with their mockery. "You come before gods," Kethril said, "and you offer us pictures? You offer us songs. Where are your weapons? Where are your conquered worlds? Where is your tribute?" He stood from his throne. He was massive, 3 times the height of a human. "You are nothing," he said. "Your species is a mistake. You should have stayed on your little blue world and died there like the insects you are." Elena felt her heart beating fast, but she did not run. "We came in peace. We ask only for understanding." "Understanding?" Kethril's eyes blazed with anger. "I will give you understanding, human. I will teach your species what happens when vermin dare to stand before the council." He raised one clawed hand. "I invoke the right of purification. This creature is unworthy of existence. Let her be cleansed by fire." Elena had 1 second to realize what was happening. She saw the pillars around her begin to glow. She felt heat, terrible heat. Then the plasma fire hit her from all sides. She screamed as her body was consumed by flames. The pain was beyond anything she had ever imagined. Through the fire, she saw the council members watching calmly. Some were smiling. Her last thought was of Earth, of her sister Maria, of the hope she had carried across the stars. Then there was only darkness. 17 minutes later, her final transmission reached home. The video showed everything. Every word, every laugh, every moment of her death. Humanity watched. And something changed in them forever. The video played on every screen on Earth. In homes and offices, in schools and hospitals, in the streets, and in the governments. Every human being watched Ambassador Elena Vasquez burn alive. They heard her screams. They saw the council laughing. For 3 days, no one knew what to do. Some people cried. Some people raged. Some people prayed to gods they had forgotten. The world stood still, frozen by grief and horror. Maria Vasquez did not cry. She sat in her laboratory and watched the video 17 times. Her sister's face was burned into her mind. The sound of Elena's screams echoed in her ears. Each time she watched, something inside her grew colder. Maria was a scientist, one of the best on Earth. She studied alien biology. For years, she had hoped to use her knowledge to help humanity understand other species. Now she understood them perfectly. They were monsters, and monsters could be killed. On the 4th day, something began to happen. It started small. The leaders of old enemy nations made phone calls to each other. Military generals who had spent their careers planning wars against each other met in secret rooms. Scientists from countries that had never shared information began sending each other files. The differences that had divided humanity for thousands of years started to disappear. Political parties stopped fighting. Religious groups set aside their disagreements. Rich and poor, east and west, old enemies and older friends, they all looked at the stars and saw the same thing. They saw creatures who had burned their daughter alive and laughed about it. By the end of the first month, every government on Earth had agreed to a single plan. They called it the United Terran Response. It was not a government. It was not an army. It was a promise. The promise was simple. Humanity would never be weak again. Admiral James Okonkwo was chosen to lead the military effort. He was 61 years old, a tall man with dark skin and gray hair. His eyes were tired but sharp. He had lost his own daughter in the early contact wars, when alien raiders had attacked human colonies. He understood loss. He understood rage. But more importantly, he understood patience. "We cannot fight them now," he told the new council that led humanity. "They have thousands of warships. We have dozens. They have weapons that can crack planets. We have nothing like that. If we attack now, we die. Then what do we do?" asked the representative from China. Okonkwo smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "We learn. We build. We prepare. And we make them think we are doing nothing." The plan was brilliant in its simplicity. Humanity would go silent. No ships would leave the solar system. No messages would be sent to any alien species. To the rest of the galaxy, it would look like humans had given up. They had retreated to their little corner of space to cry and accept their fate. That was exactly what the Council expected. High Arbiter Kethro received reports that human activity had stopped completely. He laughed and told his advisors that the vermin had learned their place. He could not have been more wrong. Behind the silence, Earth transformed. Every factory that had made cars or phones or household goods was rebuilt to produce warships and weapons. Universities stopped teaching normal classes. They became research centers focused on one goal: finding ways to kill the species that had killed. Scientists worked without sleep. Engineers designed ships that could appear from nowhere and disappear just as fast. Weapons experts created things that the galaxy had never seen. Some of these weapons were so terrible that they had been banned on Earth for centuries. Now, those bans were lifted. Maria Vasquez led the biology division. Her job was simple: find weaknesses in every council species that could be used against them. She studied their bodies, their diseases, their fears. She created viruses that could target specific alien genes. She developed poisons that could kill in seconds. Every day, she thought of her sister burning. Every day, her work grew more deadly. The rest of the galaxy noticed nothing. Council scouts occasionally flew past the edge of human space. They saw quiet worlds. They saw no warships. They reported that humanity was broken. 6 months passed. The new human fleet was ready. It was not the largest fleet in the galaxy. It was not even close. But it was different from anything that had come before. Human ships were small and fast. They carried weapons that the Council had never imagined. They were controlled by computers that could think faster than any living mind. And they were crewed by humans who were no longer afraid to die. Admiral Okonkwo looked at the fleet on his screen. 87 warships ready to launch. Behind them, hundreds more were being built. In hidden bases across the solar system, even darker projects were being completed. "Are we ready?" asked Maria Vasquez. She had come to the command center to watch the launch. "We will never be ready," Okonkwo said. "But we are prepared enough. They think we are children crying in the dark. They're about to learn what happens when you hurt a child's family." He activated the communication system. His voice went out to every ship, every base. every human being on Earth and in the colonies. Today, we begin our answer, he said. 6 months ago, they burned our ambassador alive. They laughed at her death. They called us insects. They thought we would hide and wait for them to finish us off. He paused, and his voice grew harder. They were wrong. Elena Vasquez believed in peace. She believed that words could bridge any gap. We honored her belief by giving the council 6 months to apologize. They did not. Now we will teach them a new lesson. Not with words, with fire. The fleet began to move. Ships entered faster than light travel, disappearing from human space one by one. Before the launch, Okonkwo had ordered one final message sent to the council. It was broadcast on every frequency, to every world that could receive it. The message was short. You taught us what the galaxy truly is. We are grateful. Class is now in session. High Arbiter Kethro received the message in his throne room. For the first time in centuries, he felt something strange. It took him a moment to recognize it. It was fear. He ordered his fleet to prepare for battle. But even as he gave commands, he wondered if he had made a terrible mistake. He had thought burning one human would teach their species to be afraid. Instead, he had united them. And now they were coming. Commander Vethkal of the Zervathi Imperial Navy sat in his command chair and watched the sensors with bored eyes. He was stationed at Kethral Prime, a colony world named after the High Arbiter himself. It was one of the most heavily defended planets in Zervathi space. 300 warships protected it. Orbital weapons platforms circled it like angry moons. Nothing could threaten this world. The alarm surprised him. "Commander," said his sensor officer, "we are detecting ships entering the system." Vethkal yawned. "How many? Some trade convoy lost its way?" 87 vessels, Commander." They are human." Vethkal sat up straight. Human? The vermin had actually come? He felt a smile spread across his scaled face. This would be entertaining. 300 warships against 87. The humans would die quickly, and Vethkal would become a hero. "All ships, prepare for combat," he ordered. "Standard formation. We will crush them and send their broken hulls back to Earth as a message." The Zervathi fleet moved into position. It was a beautiful sight. 300 massive warships, each one armed with enough firepower to destroy a city. They formed the traditional wall of scales, an ancient formation that had never been defeated. The human ships were tiny in comparison. They looked like toys, small and gray, without the decorations and symbols that proper warships should have. They approached quickly, faster than Vethkal expected. "They are not slowing down," said his tactical officer. "They are not forming any battle pattern I recognize." "Barbarians," Vethkal said. "They do not even know how to fight properly. This will be over in minutes." He was right about the time, but wrong about everything else. The human ships did not slow down. They did not form lines or circles or any of the patterns that civilized species used in space combat. Instead, they scattered like seeds in the wind, each ship flying in a different direction, and they started firing. The weapons they used were unlike anything Vethkal had ever seen. Bright lines of energy that cut through shields like they were not there. Missiles that split into 100 smaller missiles. Invisible beams that made engines explode from the inside. But the worst part was the drones. Each human ship released thousands of small flying machines. They were the size of a Zorve hand, and they were everywhere. They attached themselves to Zervathi hulls and exploded. They flew into engine ports and destroyed power systems. They multiplied, building copies of themselves from the wreckage of destroyed ships. Within 3 minutes, the wall of scales was breaking. Ships that had served the Imperium for centuries were torn apart by machines smaller than their smallest guns. "Retreat!" Vethkal screamed. All ships retreat. But retreat was impossible. The human ships were faster. They appeared behind fleeing vessels and destroyed them. They used the Zorvathi's own communication systems against them, sending false orders that created confusion. Some Zorvathi ships started shooting at each other, their computers hacked by human code. In 11 minutes, it was over. The great defense fleet of Kethral Prime was gone. 300 warships reduced to floating metal and frozen bodies. Vethkal's ship was damaged, but alive. He expected death. He expected the humans to destroy his vessel and kill everyone aboard. Instead, a message appeared on his screen. It was a human face, an older male with dark skin and cold eyes. "Commander," the human said, "I am Admiral James Okonkwo of the United Terran Response. Your fleet is destroyed. Your world is defenseless. You have two choices. You can fight and die, or you can surrender and live. You have 1 minute to decide." Vethkal had never surrendered in his life. His ancestors had never surrendered. The Zorvathi did not know how to surrender. But as he looked at the wreckage of his fleet, as he watched human ships moving toward his damaged vessel, he understood something. The galaxy had changed. The rules that had existed for 60,000 years no longer applied. "I surrender," he said. What happened next confused him even more. The humans did not execute his crew. They did not torture them for information. They provided medical care for the wounded. They treated their prisoners with something that Vethkal did not recognize at first. Respect. Admiral Okonkwo landed on Kethral Prime 3 hours later. His forces moved across the planet, not burning and killing as any proper conqueror would, but doing something strange. They evacuated civilians. They helped people who were hurt. They protected children and elderly. Zorvathi soldiers who tried to fight were defeated quickly and efficiently. But those who surrendered were not harmed. They were given food and water and told to wait. Within 2 days, every military base on the planet was destroyed. Every government building was torn down. Every symbol of Zorvathi authority was removed. But the cities remained. The homes remained. The people remained. Then, just as quickly as they had come, the humans left. Before departing, Okonkwo sent a message to every world in council space. His face appeared on billions of screens in the homes of species who had never seen a human before. Ambassador Elena Vasquez came to the Galactic Council in peace, he said. She carried no weapons. She threatened no one. She offered friendship and was burned alive while your leaders watched and laughed. His voice remained calm, but there was iron in his words. We could have done the same thing to this world. We could have burned it to ash and killed every living thing on its surface. We have the power, but we are not monsters. We do not murder the innocent. We do not punish children for the crimes of their leaders. He paused. Your rulers believe they are gods. They believe they can do anything without consequence. We are here to show them they are wrong. We will not take your worlds. We will not enslave your people. But we will tear down every symbol of their power until they understand one simple truth. His eyes seemed to look directly at High Arbiter Kethral, wherever he was watching. No one is above justice. Not even gods. The message ended. Across the galaxy, billions of beings sat in silence. For 60,000 years, the Council had ruled without challenge. They had destroyed species for fun. They had treated younger races as toys to be used and thrown away. Now, a species that had existed for the blink of an eye had defeated one of the most powerful fleets in the galaxy. And they had shown mercy. For some, this created fear. For others, it created something more dangerous. Hope. On 100 worlds. Beings who had lived under Council rule for generations began to whisper. If the humans could challenge the gods, perhaps others could too. Perhaps the galaxy could change. High Arbiter Kethral watched the message in his throne room on Nexus Prime. His claws dug into the arms of his throne, cracking the ancient stone dot. This was not possible. This could not be happening. Humanity was nothing. They were insects. They were vermin, and yet they had destroyed 300 of his ships in 11 minutes. For the first time in his long life, Kethro understood that he might have made the worst mistake in the history of his species. He had thought that burning one human would end the threat. Instead, he had awakened something terrible, and it was coming for him. The war lasted 8 months, but it was not like any war the galaxy had ever seen. Humanity did not conquer. They did not claim territory or demand tribute. They did not build empires on the bones of the defeated. Instead, they did something far more dangerous. They made the Council look weak. Every week brought new reports of human attacks. A military starbase would disappear overnight, destroyed by weapons that left no survivors and no evidence. Supply lines would collapse as human stealth ships appeared from empty space, struck with impossible precision and vanished before reinforcements could arrive. Communication networks would fail at critical moments, hacked by human programs that seemed to understand alien systems better than the aliens themselves. But the most effective weapon was not military at all. It was kindness. Human ships began appearing near worlds that had suffered under Council rule. They brought food for the hungry, medicine for the sick, technology that made life easier. They asked for nothing in return except one thing: remember who helped you, and remember who hurt you. On the planet Meldar 7, a species called the Melodari had served the Zorvathi as slaves for 3,000 years. They were gentle beings, tall and thin, with voices that could create beautiful music. The Zorvathi used them as entertainment and labor, killing any who refused to obey. When human ships arrived in their system, the Melodari expected death. Instead, they received freedom. Admiral Okonkwo himself visited their capital city. He walked among beings twice his height, beings who had never seen a creature like him, and he spoke words they had never heard from an outsider. "We are not here to rule you," he said. "We are here to help. If you want us to leave, we will leave. But if you want to be free, we will stand beside you." The Melodari chose freedom. They opened their shipyards to human engineers. They shared their knowledge of Council space. They became the first species to openly ally with humanity against the ancient powers. They were not the last. The crystalline hegemony was one of the founding members of the Council. They were beings made of living crystal, beautiful and cold. They had fought many wars over 60,000 years and had never lost. Then they met the human fleet at the Battle of Shattered Light. The hegemony brought 400 ships. The humans brought 90. The battle lasted 2 hours. When it ended, 60% of the hegemony fleet was destroyed. The human losses were 12 ships. The crystalline leaders did not understand. Their weapons were more powerful. Their ships were larger. Their crews had centuries of experience. How could they lose to a species that had only been in space for 30 years? The answer was simple. The Council fought wars the way they had always fought wars. They used the same tactics, the same formations, the same strategies that had worked for thousands of years. They believed in honor, in formal challenges, in giving enemies a chance to surrender before battle. Humans believed in winning. Human ships did not fight fair. They attacked from unexpected directions. They used electronic warfare to blind enemy sensors. They sent false signals that made enemies shoot at ghosts. They targeted weak points that should have been impossible to find. And when the battle turned against them, they did not retreat with dignity. They fought like cornered animals, using every dirty trick in human history. The crystalline hegemony asked for peace. They withdrew from the Council and declared neutrality in the war. One by one, other species followed. The Void Collective stopped responding to Council orders. The gas lords of Nebula 7 announced they would no longer provide fuel to Zorvathi ships. The machine intelligence of Sector 44 calculated that humanity would win and switch sides. Arbiter Kethril watched his alliance collapse. 60,000 years of power were crumbling like a sandcastle in a storm. He raged in his throne room, killing servants who brought bad news, demanding solutions that no one could provide. "They are insects," he screamed at his generals. "How are insects defeating us?" None of his generals had an answer. Some of them were beginning to wonder if they should change sides before it was too late. Kethril ordered desperate measures. He commanded his scientists to create biological weapons that could kill all humans. He ordered his fleet to use civilians as shields. He planned attacks on Earth itself, hoping to destroy the human homeworld before they could win. But humanity was always one step ahead. Dr. Maria Vasquez had spent 8 months studying Council technology. Human intelligence agents had infiltrated every level of Council command. Every plan Kethril made was known to humans before his own officers heard about it. The biological weapons facility was destroyed before the first virus could be completed. Maria led the operation herself. She stood in the ruins of the laboratory where the plague meant for Earth had been developed. Surrounded by human soldiers and the bodies of Zorvathi scientists, she held up a small device. It projected a holographic image that was broadcast to every world in Council space. The image showed a young woman with brown skin and kind eyes, smiling in a graduation gown. "This is Elena Vasquez," Maria said. Her voice was steady, but there was pain beneath the words. "She was my sister. She believed that peace was possible between all species. She believed that even the cruelest beings could learn to be kind." She looked directly into the camera. "You killed her for that belief. You burned her alive and laughed. And now you try to create diseases to wipe out our entire species." Her eyes hardened. "We could do the same to you. We have the knowledge. We have the weapons. One word from me, and viruses would spread across your worlds that would end your species in a generation." She paused, letting the threat sink in. "But we will not do that, because we are not you. We do not murder billions for the crimes of their leaders. We do not destroy civilizations because they are different from us. We are better than that." Elena was better than that. She deactivated the image. "This war ends one way. Your leaders will fall. They will face justice for what they did. And then we will build something new. Something better. A galaxy where no ambassador is ever burned alive. Where no species is enslaved. Where power does not come from fear." Her final words echoed across 1,000 worlds. "That is what my sister wanted. That is what we will create. In her name." The Council voted to surrender 3 days later. It was not unanimous. Most species had already abandoned the alliance. Only the Zorvathi and 2 loyal species voted to continue fighting, but Kethril refused to accept the result. He fled from Nexus Prime with his personal guard, returning to his homeworld. There, in an ancient fortress built into a sacred mountain, he prepared for his last stand. He sent a message to Admiral Okonkwo, full of threats and curses. He promised that the humans would never take him alive. He swore that the Zorvathi would rise again and destroy humanity. Even if it took 1,000,000 years, Okonkwo received the message calmly. He read it twice, then looked at Maria Vasquez. "He expects us to send a fleet," Okonkwo said. "He wants a glorious battle. A story his people will tell for generations. Will you give him one?" Maria asked. Okonkwo smiled. It was not a cruel smile, but it was not kind either. It was the smile of a man who knew exactly what he was doing. "No," he said. "I will give him something worse. I will give him a choice." He ordered his fleet to hold position. Then he prepared a shuttle for a single passenger, himself. The fortress of Kethril had stood for 12,000 years. It was carved into the heart of Mount Zorith, the most sacred mountain on the Zorifai homeworld. Generations of High Arbiters had ruled from these halls. Armies had broken themselves against its walls. It was said that the fortress would stand until the last Zovathi drew their last breath. 10,000 warriors guarded its gates. Weapons that could destroy warships pointed at the sky. Shields surrounded the mountain like an invisible dome, powerful enough to stop any attack. When the single human shuttle appeared on their sensors, the Zovathi thought it was a mistake. "One ship?" said the fortress commander. "They send one ship against us?" The shuttle did not try to hide. It did not fire weapons or launch drones. It simply flew straight toward the fortress, landing in the killing field before the great gates. Hundreds of weapons locked onto it. Any one of them could vaporize the small vessel in an instant. The door opened. A single human stepped out. Admiral James Okonkwo walked across the killing field with slow, steady steps. He wore no armor. He carried no weapons. His hands were empty at his sides. The Zorathi warriors watched in confusion. Was this a trick? A distraction? They scanned for hidden ships, invisible armies, secret weapons. They found nothing. Okonkwo stopped before the sealed gates. He looked up at the walls, at the thousands of warriors ready to kill him, at the guns pointed at his heart. "Open the gates," he said. His voice was calm, almost gentle. "Let us end this." For a long moment, nothing happened. Then, slowly, the ancient gates began to move. They opened like the jaws of some great beast, revealing the torch-lit hall beyond. Okonkwo walked inside. The fortress was filled with warriors. They lined the walls, their weapons ready, their eyes burning with hatred. Any one of them could have killed him. None of them moved. There was something about the human that stopped them. He walked among them like a ghost, like a spirit that could not be touched. He climbed stairs that had been carved when humanity was still living in caves. He passed through chambers that held the treasures of 1,000 conquered worlds. He saw paintings of Zorvathi victories, statues of legendary warriors, the bones of enemies displayed as trophies. Finally, he reached the throne room. High Arbiter Kethril waited for him. The ancient Zovathi sat on a throne of black stone, his scales darker than shadow, his eyes burning with yellow fire. He was surrounded by his personal guards, the greatest warriors of his species. Kethril was old. He had ruled for centuries. He had seen species rise and fall. He had never known fear. Now, looking at the small human who had walked alone into his fortress, he felt something close to it. "Have you come to die?" Kethril asked. His voice echoed off the stone walls. "Have you come to beg for mercy? Your fleet cannot save you here. Your tricks and machines are useless in my home." Okonkwo stopped in the center of the room. He looked up at the massive creature on the throne. Around him, guards waited for the order to tear him apart. "I have come to offer you what you never offered Elena Vasquez," Okonkwo said. "A choice." He reached slowly into his jacket. Guards stepped forward, ready to strike. But Okonkwo only pulled out a small device. He activated it, and a holographic image appeared in the air. The image showed Earth, not its weapons or its fleets, but its life. Children playing in green parks. Artists painting beautiful pictures. Musicians making songs. Old people laughing with their grandchildren. Lovers walking hand in hand through city streets. "This is what we are," Okonkwo said. "This is what Ambassador Vasquez tried to show you. Not soldiers. Not conquerors. Just people trying to live, to love, to create something beautiful in a dark universe." He stepped closer to the throne. Kethril's claws extended, razor-sharp and ready to kill. "We could destroy you," Okonkwo continued. "Every ship, every world, every trace that your species did. We have weapons now that even you cannot imagine. We could become the monsters you tried to make us. We could burn your children the way you burned our ambassador." He met Catherall's eyes without fear, but that would betray everything Elena believed. She died believing that peace was possible, that even the cruelest beings could change, that the galaxy could be better than it has been. He extended his hand toward the High Arbiter. It was a gesture of peace, the same gesture Elena had made before she died. "I am here to find out if she was right. Surrender. Face justice for what you did. Help us build a galaxy where no diplomat is ever burned alive, where no species believes they are gods with the right to murder others." His voice softened. "Or refuse. Fight. Die here in your fortress, surrounded by the ghosts of your conquests. Prove that your species truly is the monster that everyone believes. The choice is yours." The throne room fell silent. Even the flames on the torches seemed to stop moving. Catherall looked at the human's extended hand. He thought of the worlds he had conquered, the species he had destroyed, the power he had held for centuries. He thought of Elena Vasquez, the small creature who had stood before the council with hope in her eyes. He had laughed when she burned. He had enjoyed her screams. Now, for the first time in his long life, he wondered if he had been wrong. She was. Catherall's voice was quiet, almost confused. "She was braver than I understood." Slowly, his claws retracted. His ancient body sagged on the throne, centuries of pride draining away. His guards stared in disbelief as their High Arbiter, the undefeated warrior, the ruler of empires, reached down toward the human. Their hands met. The war was over. 10 years later, the galaxy was a different place. The Galactic Assembly met in a new chamber, one designed by human architects and built by species from across the stars. It was not grand like the old council chamber. There were no thrones, no symbols of power. Just a round table where delegates from 47 species sat as equals. Above the entrance, a statue stood in a place of honor. It was made of metal salvaged from the warships of a dozen worlds, beaten and shaped into the form of a small human woman with kind eyes and an outstretched hand. Elena Vasquez. Below the statue, a plaque held simple words. She came in peace. In her name, peace was forged. Maria Vasquez stood at the table, looking at the beings gathered around her. Some had once been enemies. Some had been slaves. Some had been conquerors who believed they were gods. Now they sat together, working toward a common future that it was not perfect. There were still disagreements, still conflicts, still moments when old hatreds flared up. Building peace was harder than waging war, but they were trying. That was what mattered. Admiral Okonkwo sat in the visitor section, retired now but still honored. He caught Maria's eye and nodded slightly. She nodded back. Beside him sat a figure that drew stares from around the chamber. Catherall, former High Arbiter of the Zorathi Imperium. He was old now, his scales faded, his eyes dimmed. He had spent 5 years in custody, facing judgment for his crimes. Many had wanted him dead. Maria herself had wanted him dead, but Elena would not have wanted that dot, so Catherall lived. He spent his days teaching young Zorvathi about the mistakes of the past. He told them about the small human woman who had come in peace and been answered with fire. He told them how that fire had burned away everything his species had built. He told them that strength was not the ability to destroy. True strength was the ability to reach out a hand, even to an enemy, and offer a better way. Sometimes, when he was alone, he whispered an apology to a ghost. It was not enough. It could never be enough. But it was all he had. Maria Vasquez looked around the chamber one final time. 47 species. Countless worlds. Billions of beings working together instead of fighting. Her sister would have loved this. Delegates, Maria said, her voice carrying to every corner of the room. We have much work to do. Old wounds to heal. New relationships to build. A future to create that none of our ancestors could have imagined. She smiled. And in her smile was the echo of another woman. One who had believed in peace so strongly that she had died for it. Let us begin. The assembly started its work. Outside the windows, stars shone in the endless dark. Somewhere among them, human ships flew beside alien vessels, no longer enemies but partners. Children of different species played together on space stations their grandparents would have considered impossible. The galaxy was changing. Slowly, painfully, sometimes with steps backward. But changing, all because one woman had stretched out her hand in peace. And because, when that hand was burned, humanity had found a way to honor it without becoming the very evil they fought. This was Elena's legacy. This was humanity's gift to the stars, not conquest. Not destruction. Hope.